New this month on CBC Gem, from Oscar-winning director Ang Lee comes an adventure of a lifetime. Join Pai Patel as he and his Bengal tiger struggle to survive at sea and make their way back home. Don't miss the visual masterpiece that raised the bar for special effects and nominated for 11 Academy Awards, winning Best Director and Best Visual Effects. Watch The Life of Pi for free, starting December 6th on CBC Gem.
You know the feeling of finding a really good podcast? Or the feeling of someone always being there, like your favorite radio show? Stream CBC Podcasts, CBC Music, and CBC Radio anytime, anywhere. Download the CBC Listen app for free.
This is CBC News. At 12 o'clock, we're at minus 19 with mainly sunny skies over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon. I'm Matt Humphrey. Canada Post employees could be back on the job as early as next week. That comes from the federal labor minister, who says he's intervening in the labor dispute. Cup W members went on strike nearly 1 month ago. The CBC's Marina von Stackelberg has the details.
Canadians are rightly fed up.
Canada's Labour Minister, Stephen McKinnon, says he's stepping in to end the 4-week-long strike. He's asking the Canada Industrial Relations Board to decide if the two sides are at an impasse. If it does, it will order them back to work.
That could happen as early next week.
McKinnon was questioned why he didn't intervene sooner during the most busy shipping season of the year.
These parties have not reached an agreement on their own for a long, long time. I wanted to give them every possibility of doing that. We devoted every bit of mediation and other resources that we could.
McKinnon has also brought in an independent commissioner who will look at why the two sides can't reach an agreement and report back in May. Until then, the previous collective agreement will be extended. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
Ottawa is giving an organization at the University of Manitoba a $206,000 grant to help guide people on the path of reconciliation. The Canadian Reconciliation Barometer promotes and tracks progress in reconciliation. It was one of the calls to action in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Winnipeg South MP Terry Duguid says the work of the group is necessary.
The ultimate goal of the Canadian Reconciliation Barometer project is to build greater understanding and foster healing between Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities all over Canada, something we all want and desperately need.
Group members say the money will be used to create an advisory committee, including Indigenous and non-Indigenous members, develop educational materials, and increase its online presence. A Winnipeg community facing the prospect of losing 2 outdoor pools could get a new aquatic facility. The city's draft budget includes money to kickstart construction of a new outdoor pool in St. Boniface. The CBC's Cameron McLean has your details.
Last year's budget dealt a blow to outdoor swimming facilities in St. Boniface. It called for the closure of the Happyland and Windsor Park pools. The move sparked pushback from the community. The city eventually delayed closing Windsor Park until at least after next summer, but the city closed Happyland despite community fundraising efforts to save it. Now the budget calls for $2.6 million in 2025 to begin work on a new outdoor aquatic facility in St. Boniface. The whole project is expected to cost $10 million. But St. Boniface Councillor Matt Allard says he hopes the funding will help leverage money from other sources, including the province. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The World Court in The Hague has wrapped up its historic hearings on climate change. More than 100 countries and organizations addressed the court, arguing about legal rights and responsibilities of countries. Lauren Comato has the details from Amsterdam.
The World Health Organization was one of the last intergovernmental agencies to address the court. The WHO wants judges to place health at the center of their advisory opinion. WHO Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says climate change wreaks havoc on human health, from increasing cases of cholera and malaria to pollution-related cancers and the destruction of already overburdened healthcare systems.
While the climate crisis is multifaceted, from the perspective of WHO, it's fundamentally a health crisis.
The Global South wants judges to apply the rule of international law to climate change and hold states accountable for their emissions. The U.S., Canada, and most European countries want the court to defer to climate treaties like the Paris Agreement. Judges will hand down their non-binding advisory opinion sometime next year. Lauren Comato for CBC News, Amsterdam.
30 sports organizations for young people in Manitoba are benefiting from last year's Winnipeg World Police and Fire Games. The host society laid out what will be done with the $330,000 left over from last year's games. $180,000 from the Legacy program will go to 3 sports organizations for young people in Manitoba: the Winnipeg Aboriginal Sport Achievement Centre, or WASC, Kids Sport, and the Manitoba Aboriginal Sport and Recreation Council. Trevor Lafort is the executive director of WASC.
We are grateful for the investment in our youth. These funds will help us to continue to develop leadership and mentorship skills for Indigenous youth in sport, recreation, and cultural programs.
Kids Sport Manitoba says the money means it will be able to help 120 children get involved in sport. And finally, Canadians have a chance to witness one of the largest meteor showers of the year. The Geminid meteor shower will peak tonight above the northern hemisphere. The Geminids typically put on the brightest show because of just the sheer number of meteors. This time, however, many of them will be washed out by the light of the full moon. Wind from the south, though, in Winnipeg, and sunny today. Clear skies tonight. A high of -13 with a wind chill today in Winnipeg. Brandon, a chance of light snow and windy. A high around -14. Dauphin, you could see light snow as well. A high of -13. Flin Flon, light snow at times. A high of -15 degrees. Thompson, a high of -16 with light snow. And in Churchill, you're seeing light snow at times and windy. A high of -16.
Good afternoon, Manitoba. You're listening to Radio Noon on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg, 97.9 FM in Brandon, 100.9 FM in Thompson. I'm Emily Brass, filling in as your host. Here's what's coming up on the show. What's your must-watch holiday movie or show? Is it Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer with Burl Ives? Or maybe it's a Charlie Brown Christmas with all that fantastic music? Some might even say Die Hard is their holiday must-watch. Whatever your favorite, we want to hear from you during our call-in conversation later in the show. We're also going to check in on some of Santa's helpers delivering some Christmas spirit to seniors in Steinbach. But up first, back to work. The Trudeau government is asking the Canada Industrial Relations Board to send Canada Post workers back to work. We'll hear what concessions could be made by both sides of the labor dispute. 7 minutes after noon, you are listening to Radio Noon on CBC Radio 1. Well, it's been 4 weeks since the Canada Post labor dispute began, but today, Federal Labor Minister Stephen McKinnon is asking the Canada Industrial Relations Board to send striking workers back to work. If the board decides the two sides are at an impasse, the CPUW union members will be sent back to work as soon as next week. And for reaction to that, we've reached Ian Lee, an economist and associate professor at the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. Hello, Ian.
Good afternoon.
So what's your reaction to news that Canada Post workers could be sent back to work if the Canada Industrial Relations Board agrees that the two sides are at an impasse?
This is a very unusual decision. And people say, well, wait a minute, they already sent back the Port of Vancouver workers and the Port of Montreal and the railroads. So, it's just sort of the same old, same old. It isn't. It is, but it isn't. Yes, the Minister of Labor, under Section 107 of the Labor Act, has the authority to instruct the the Canadian Labor Relations Board, to act on this. They did that, but with one key difference compared to past orders concerning, for example, Port of Vancouver. In that instance, he ordered them to impose a settlement of binding arbitration, compulsory arbitration, on the Port of Vancouver, on the railroads. This time, he did no such thing. What he said was, I'm asking or ordering you, the Labor Board, to tell the workers the strike is over. The collective agreement will be extended till May of 2025. And he said, I am ordering you, the board, to investigate why the two parties could not come to an agreement. That's a very different issue. That's a strategic, that's the sort of thing I do in my classes in strategy. By the way, I'm not saying that this is wrong. I'm just saying, I'm saying that that's not what they normally do. They're labor relations scholars, and they look at, the competing demands for wages and benefits and that sort of thing. What he has instructed the board to do is to do something, I think, quite different. He is really asking them to examine the two very different business models that are at dispute. CUPW has one vision for a traditional letter business model, where you go to Canada 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year to all 17 million addresses. And the radically different model that Canada Post wants, which is a parcel courier model, where you only go to the address when there's something to take to the address. So they did not impose a settlement on them. They ordered them back to work. They extended the collective agreement for 5 months, but now they're required to do a comprehensive analysis. And I understand why they sent them back to work. Because, it was killing small business and hurting people in the rural and remote communities. I'm dubious that this is a political decision that has to be made ultimately. It has to be the government of Canada and, of course, Parliament to decide what is the future of Canada Post going to be. I don't think that's the role of the Labour Board.
Yeah, in fact, the Labour Minister, McKinnon, even called it a timeout. Why do you think he's going that route? You touched on it, but is it because the two sides just haven't been able to come to agreement? And, why is that?
I think there's two separate reasons. You can't ever take the politics out of politics. We understand that, this is a government. Every government is elected. And so politics necessarily becomes involved. But first and foremost, small business across Canada was screaming. People in the rural and remote communities and people that couldn't get their passports because they were stuck in the mail were complaining. So there was huge pressure to do something. And then secondly, it cannot be denied that the government is struggling. It's in very desperate straits. The stories in the Globe and Mail today are showing that, the conflicts within the cabinet. And so I think they're trying to get this bad news story out of the news. And so there were political motivations as well as responding to the pressures across the country.
Mm-hmm. And like we touched on, the strikes lasted more than 4 weeks. That's a really long time for those people that you mentioned, waiting for things desperately in the mail. And McKinnon said on Friday that a federal mediator thinks negotiations are going in the wrong direction. Why do you think he might have, had that impression negotiations are going the wrong way?
Well, the comments, the public, I wasn't, of course, in the room, none of us were, but the comments almost daily by both sides. So I'm not trying to, pick one side or the other by any means. Both sides said, hey, we're not even close to a deal. CUPW said that the Canada Post management isn't even responding to their demands. And Canada Post is saying the very same thing to CUPW. And as I've said before, I don't believe this is a classical labor relations dispute. In most labor relations disputes, and I'm unionized at my university, and I'm very aware of our negotiations that are going on as I speak. Okay, and normally look, we asked you for 20%, you're only giving us 5%, and so then you sit there, it's like almost horse trading or buying a car, and I don't mean to trivialize it at all, it's really serious stuff. But you're dealing with nuts and bolts, bread and butter issues. You're not dealing with existential philosophical questions like what is the role of the post office in a national society? These are really macro political policy questions. And that's why they couldn't come to an agreement, because the two sides have radically different visions of the future for Canada Post.
So, given all of that, what compromises do you think need to be made on both sides for Canada Post and CUPW to resolve this?
I don't, and I've said this several times on and speaking to journalists at CBC, I do not believe that they can compromise. You can't square the circle. Like Solomon, you can't cut the baby in half. You can't. If you do, you kill the baby. And so what I'm saying is, I believe, of course, there's going to be a solution, but the solution will not be at the bargaining table, because it's not possible, because they have such radically different visions. This is going to require, I believe, legislation introduced by the government, whether it's this government or the next government after the next election, which is more likely, by the way, because this parliament, is so dysfunctional right now, and it's a lame duck parliament. We all know that. But I think the next parliament is going to have to confront this, and the solution will ultimately have to be legislative, where it's debated in the court of public opinion, debated in the national parliament, because it's going to be very controversial. Whatever solution is decided, if they go the one route of continuing with the status quo, those deficits are going to become larger and larger and larger year by year. And it'll be evolve towards what I called a Potemkin post office in my Globe and Mail op-ed. If they go the other way, then they're looking at very large layoffs to restructure and downsize the post office. Either solution is going to be very controversial and very divisive because there is no consensus on this.
Well, and so if this, if it does go through with the board, that they're ordered back to work next week, and that means that their collective agreement is extended until next May, don't you think they could act sooner than waiting for the next parliament to take care of it? Couldn't that start to be decided in parliament by having that extension?
Listen, you're absolutely right. I just don't think they will because it's so politically contentious. I mean, not getting into, the fact that they're down 22 points in the polls. If I was the prime minister, I most certainly am not. This is the hottest of all the hot potatoes because every community in this country has a post office pretty well. I mean, everybody's affected by the post office. This isn't an inside Ottawa story. I mean, I grew up on a farm in rural eastern Ontario. My late mother grew up in rural Saskatchewan. I mean, on a farm, a real farm. And I mean, you get these little villages and hamlets across the country, and the post offices, they're being. And so this is it's not a dollars and cents thing. There's a huge emotional attachment to the post office. It's one of the oldest institutions in Canada. When I did my PhD thesis on the post office, I found out in 1867, the Parliament of Canada, and I'm quoting from my own thesis, and I wrote it 35 years ago, so I may misquote myself, but I believe the Post Office Act was the 10th statute passed by the new Parliament of Canada. Like, that's how old this institution is. It goes back to the origins of the creation. I want to be very careful and not get into debates about settlers, but it goes back to the origins of the Parliament. It was the first Parliament of Canada. The Post Office Department was created, and I think it was the 10th Act, but it was early in the mandate of the very first Parliament of Canada. That's how old this institution is. It was founded by the Royal Mail and as essentially a subset of the Royal Mail in 1761 in British North America, as it was then called.
Talk about an institution. Ian, we appreciate you so much for coming on our show today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ian Lee is an economist and associate professor at the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University.
Your local news at your fingertips.
CBC News has a local news app made for your phone or tablet.
So don't waste time scrolling for the local stories you want. Just download the app to get the information that matters to you, when it happens,
and how you want it.
Another way to get your local news. The CBC News app. Download it today.
You're listening to Radio Noon on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM and 990 AM in Winnipeg, 90.9 FM in Flin Flon, and 105.3 FM in Dauphin. I'm Emily Brass, and here's a look at the weather. Right now, the cold spot in the province is in Churchill at minus 23. Our warm spot is Melita, sitting at minus 11 right now. It is minus 17 and mainly sunny in Barons River. In Brandon, minus 13 and partly cloudy. Dauphin, minus 20 and sunny. Flin Flon, minus 17 and partly cloudy. In Gillam, minus 20 and mostly cloudy. Island Lake, you're minus 18 and sunny. Lynn Lake, cloudy and minus 15. In Norway House, misty and minus 17. In Portage, drifting snow and minus 17. To Dooley Lake, light snow, minus 18. Sunny in the Paw and minus minus 17. Thompson, you're seeing some drifting snow right now, and it's minus 19. Here in Winnipeg, it is minus 17 and mainly sunny at the airport. For tonight, it's going to be partly cloudy. Minus 13 is the low, but it's going to rise overnight. It will be breezy, though, so it'll still feel chilly. Tomorrow, a mix of sun and clouds in the morning in Winnipeg, increasing cloudiness through the day. Afternoon, high of minus 7, breezy as well. And on Sunday, cloudy with light snow starting later in the day, breezy with a high of minus 2. It's 12:19. You're listening to Radio Noon on CBC Radio 1. And just a little preview of what's coming up in our call-in conversation. What's your must-watch holiday movie or show? Maybe it's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, you know, that stop-motion one with Burl Ives. Or maybe it's A Charlie Brown Christmas with all that fantastic music. I know some even say they've got to watch Die Hard and Die Hard 2. I actually have never even seen either of those, so maybe I need to catch up on those. But whatever your favorite is, we're going to want to hear all about it. That's coming up on our call-in conversation, which happens right after the 12:30 news. And, if you want to write the number down now and get ready to call us in a bit, that's 204-780-0893. And you can also text us at 204-588-7355.
Ready, Rudolph?
Enjoy this festive season.
You coming? Why, to the North Pole, of course.
Enjoy the magic.
Happy birthday.
Hilarity.
I triple dog dare you.
We're all in for a very big treat.
Enjoy the excitement.
Tremendous, gargantuan, spectacular.
And wonder.
From the moment I met you, it's been an adventure.
Enjoy the holidays. Watch free on CBC Gem.
It's 20 minutes after 12 o'clock. You're listening to Radio Noon on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg. You can check us out at 103.5 FM in Poplar River, in Brochet, 105.1 FM. In Puckatawaga, 102.5 FM or 690 AM, and in Fisher Branch, 95.7 FM. Well, one of the best parts of the holiday season is the feeling you get when someone remembers you with a little gift. A group in Steinbach is getting ready to spread that holiday spirit with elderly members of the community. It's called Stockings for Seniors, and joining us now are some of the organizers. Carla Walker is the program and volunteer coordinator at Pat Porter Active Living Center in Steinbach, and Audrey Harder is the executive director of the Active Living Center. Hello to you both.
Hello.
So, Carla, can you start by telling us how the Stocking for Seniors program works?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Stocking for Seniors, we have people that come to our center and they can fill out a form and they choose somebody that they know of that just needs a little pick-me-up at Christmas, and they give us their information and where we deliver the stocking to, and we get that stocking ready for them, and we get it delivered to that particular address.
And tell us a bit about the stockings. Like, what are in them?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have 2 packages that people can order. The first package is $25, and the second one is $40. And so for the $25 package, we put in some sweet treats and some daily necessities and socks and things like that, and we put in a coupon for our Meals on Wheels program that they can order a meal and enjoy that. And then for our $40 stocking package, we fill it just a bit more full up to the brim with things too, like sweet treats and some socks and just daily necessities, and we put a few more coupons in there for our Meals on Wheels, some decorations for Christmas, some word search puzzles, and extras like that.
And Audrey, why is that Meals on Wheels gift certificate important to include in those stockings?
Well, for me, it's important because we want to, first of all, make sure people are eating well. And eating alone sometimes is not as enjoyable. So there's an opportunity there to come and have a meal with us. If you want, you can purchase your meal or order your meal and come on down and hand over your certificate and come stay with us and have lunch, or you can order it yourself, and it gives us a little more understanding of where people are at too. So we can meet people, we check on them at the doorway. It's a great opportunity just to be that person who checks in and gives that extra greeting, because we all need somebody, and it's really, being left out is very difficult, and feeling lonely is one of the most difficult things in life, and it's a way to change that for people slowly.
Yeah, and Audrey, I know that Carla touched on it a bit, but, who exactly gets these stockings?
You can nominate somebody, and we also have a list of people that we know who really should get the stocking. It could be somebody who may just not be going out as much anymore, somebody who's lost a loved one recently, because there's also little notes in there. There's notes from us, from community members, just reminding them that they matter, and that loneliness, again, it helps to get rid of that lonely feeling. So we make sure, and it can be any age, actually. We do have some people who are younger who are nominated as well, and we bring them a stocking, and they get one every year, because that's important to them. That's part of their tradition now. They will sit with their neighbors, and they'll open the stocking, and they'll have a wonderful event out of it.
Carla, how do the seniors react when they get a stocking?
You know what? I think it just blesses their Christmas. I know I was talking to someone yesterday that my dad had received one last year, and he just could not stop saying thank you. He just wanted to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Like it just made him so happy that people, even aside from family, were thinking about him, and that he did matter outside of his little home or his family. Like, people think about him.
And Carla, what kind of difference do you think the stocking makes for someone who, might be living a bit of a solitary life?
Yeah, you know what? I think that exactly just how it made my dad feel. I think that it just reminds them that they do matter, and people do think about them, and that it cheers them up.
Yeah. And they're loved. It's nice to feel loved, especially at Christmas, which can be very difficult for some people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good to know you're loved by others.
Yeah, I mean, Audrey, how has the response been so far this holiday season?
Well, this year it started with the pandemic. That's where this all started. And it's grown over the years. This year it's a bit, we need some more stockings for sure. We're up to, we have 57.
57.
Oh, or
yeah,
62, because there's 7 more now. So there's 62, and we need about another 40 to 50 stockings to fulfill all the people who need them and that we want to get them to. So we have some local businesses who have been starting to step up as well, and that's been really exciting for us, because it's a way for their staff and them to give back to the community that directly goes to a person. And, of course, because we're a nonprofit, you do get a tax receipt for it as well. So that's really helpful, too. So, not only are you donating to an organization, but every penny you give us does not come to us. It goes to that person.
Yeah. And who puts the stockings together, Audrey?
Well, we have different local organizations. This year we have a Steinbach minor hockey group. They have this new kindness initiative they started called Sticking Together, and we're very excited to have them come down and put it together. Other years it's been just community members who call and say, I'm coming to help, and we're, okay, this is the date, show up. And it's fantastic to do that, because we usually get them to sign the card as well.
Yeah. And Carla, today is the last day people can order stockings for seniors. We heard Audrey talk about how, you get a tax receipt, but what else would you say to encourage people to buy one?
You know what? I would say that if you're just thinking about it, if it's crossed your mind, just do it. Do it. Call us, order a stocking for someone that might need one. And it is really important to just give back, and it feels good to give back. I think that when we give back to our community, it fills us, and it's good. It's a good thing to do.
Well, I appreciate both of you for joining us today and telling us more. Good luck with all the stockings.
Thank you so much.
Carla Walker is a program and volunteer coordinator, and Audrey Harder is executive director. They both joined us from the Pat Porter Active Living Center in Steinbach.
Everybody knows a turkey and some mistletoe help to make the season bright. But singing along to Yuletide classics and new holiday favorites is what really makes the holly jolly. CBC Music unwraps the gift of holiday playlists to get you into the festive spirit. From pop to jazz, gospel, folk, blues, classical, country, and so many more. Now available on the CBC Listen app.
You're listening to Radio Noon on CBC Radio 1, and coming up after the news.
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. You really are a heel. You're as cuddly as a cactus. You're as charming as an eel, Mr. Grinch. You're a bad banana.
Gotta love that. The Mean Old Grinch, and that's from the original classic, The Grinch Who Stole Christmas from 1966. And for many folks, it's a tradition to watch that over the holidays, since it's still one of the very best out there. What's your favorite holiday movie or show that you just have to watch over the holidays? We want you to tell us during our call-in conversation that's coming up after the news. And here are the numbers if you want to write them down, or maybe you want to call in during the news. That number is 204-780-0893. Again, 204-780-0893. You can also text us if that's better. And the number for that is 204-588-7355. Again, 204-588-7355. We're going to have Di Golding, who's a film and TV critic and a member of the Critics' Choice Association, telling us more about all the classic movies, the newer movies coming up. So you want to tune in. The news is next.
This is CBC News. At 12:30, we're at minus 17 with mainly sunny skies over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon. I'm Matt Humphrey. We begin in Ottawa.
It is my view that the parties are at an impasse.
That's Labour Minister Stephen McKinnon talking about the contract dispute at Canada Post. After almost a month, he's decided to step in. But he's not sending the dispute to binding arbitration.
I have asked the Canada Industrial Relations Board, if they also determine that there is an impasse, to order Canada Post and all employees represented by CUPW to resume and continue their operations and duties, and to extend the existing collective agreements until May 22nd, 2025.
McKinnon says employees could be back at work as soon as next week, early next week. In the next few months, a commissioner will take a look at the broader issues at Canada Post. CUPW is denouncing the move as a violation of the charter right to collective bargaining. Canada Post says it's committed to working with the minister on the new process. The Canadian Reconciliation Barometer project at the University of Manitoba is getting a funding boost from Ottawa. The federal government says $206,000 will support the program's efforts fostering reconciliation. Catherine Starzyk is part of the project team. She says the money will help establish a formal advisory group with both Indigenous and non-Indigenous people.
Because of this funding, we can continue to shed light on where we are in this long and winding journey toward reconciliation and foster mutually respectful relationships at both personal and systemic levels so that Indigenous peoples and others in Canada can enjoy the good life.
Starzyk says the money will also produce education materials and give the organization a larger online presence to reach more people. And last year's Winnipeg World Police and Fire Games is donating money to sports venues and organizations helping young people in the province. It has more than $300,000 left over from the event and is spreading that money to help future athletes. $180,000 will be split evenly between Winnipeg Aboriginal Sport Achievement Centre, or WASAC, the Manitoba Aboriginal Sport and Recreation Council, and also Kids Sport. Dustin Eyre is with Kids Sport.
It's a tremendous donation that we've received. It usually takes up to about 5 or 6 donors to be able to fund one child. So to be able to fund 120 in Manitoba next year is something that we greatly appreciate.
9 sports venues around the province that were used in the games will also receive $10,000 each, and $34,000 is being set aside to help future police and firefighters participate in the games. That's your CBC News from Winnipeg. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you, Matt.
Emily.
Yes, Matt.
On a personal note, may I? take a personal moment.
Please do.
News has reached me that you are leaving us for New Brunswick. For everyone who doesn't know.
Yeah, it's very sad. I'm going to be saying goodbye to people I love like you, Matt.
And I've always affectionately referred to you as Auntie M.
Yes.
And you're heading east to take over the reins of the morning show in New Brunswick. Congratulations.
Thank
the St.
you.
John Morning Show.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Matt.
It's hard to sum up how I feel.
Aw, I know. And likewise, it's just been amazing seeing you come in and be a news editor, presenter. You're just doing a fantastic job and you get better and better every day. So I'm going to keep tuning in to listen to you, Matt.
Oh, Auntie, don't go away. Come back. Come back.
Oh my gosh, is that like Judy Garland or something?
Yeah, it is.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh.
I've learned so much from you.
You too.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Matt.
Missed. It's our last shift, just so everyone knows.
It's our last shift together. It's our last chance to say goodbye. I am actually going to be here through Tuesday, but this was Matt and I's last shared newscast even.
Yeah. Thanks for everything.
Thank you for all the memories, buddy.
Back soon.
Okay. That's Matt Humphrey from the CBC Manitoba News Desk, and I'm going to try not to get too choked up after that fond farewell. And in the studio with me is Riley Lachuk, our weather presenter. Thank you, Riley. I really appreciate it. I'm going to miss you too.
We'll have a couple days together next week.
Yeah, it's not our last show together yet, so we don't have to go there yet, you and I. And congratulations also to you.
Thanks.
Now you've got the permanent job as the weather presenter here at CBC Manitoba, and that's going to be very well deserved.
With a warm-up as we head into the weekend. Yes, the clock isn't frozen anymore. We're moving forward a little bit. As expected, the sun, very nice to have the sun out there. Enjoy it because we'll start to get some cloud in as we start to bring in some of those warmer temperatures. The trade-off is cloudier skies with that. So enjoy the sun today. Not as cold as it was yesterday. Minus 17 in Winnipeg right now. Minus 13 in Brandon. Minus 19 in Thompson at the moment. Mostly sunny across the province. A little bit of cloud across the northern half of the province. Shamattawa through Island Lake. Gillam, for example, getting a bit of a cloudier sky today. But some sunny breaks across the north through the day today. Chance of a few flurries out of some of that cloud, particularly along the Hudson Bay coast as we get through the rest of the day. Otherwise, mostly sunny through the south. A mix of sun and clouds really will start to introduce a bit more cloud as we get into Saturday. So Saturday starting with a mix of sun and clouds to a mostly cloudy afternoon, and that cloud really fills in as we get into Sunday. This is ahead of a low moving in from Colorado. Yep, Colorado low. Not going to have a major impact on our weather here. Expect some snow late Sunday into Monday through southern Manitoba, but really I'm saying 5 centimeters. Could see some pockets where we see up to 8 centimeters. Not a huge dump of snow coming, but there will be some snow as we head later Sunday into Monday across southern Manitoba. With that comes a risk of freezing rain into the early part of Sunday along a frontal boundary that's along with this into the Parkland region, Dauphin, Swan River. The risk is there that we could see some freezing precipitation because temperatures will be close to freezing and there's a lot warmer air up in the atmosphere that will be pushing into southern Manitoba. Afternoon temperature today in Winnipeg at minus 14. High temperatures, minus 11s in the west, minus 12 in Dauphin. We actually won't reach some of these daytime highs until we get into the late evening, into the overnight period tonight. So that's why I'm saying an afternoon temperature in Winnipeg of minus 14. The high temperature, minus 13. That would be through the overnight hours. Up to minus 7 for Saturday, rising to minus 4 by Sunday morning, rising to minus 2 by the afternoon on Sunday. And then we start to introduce some of that snow as we get late Sunday into Monday with gusty northwesterly winds that will push our temperature down to minus 10 for Monday afternoon.
But even then, we get a nice weekend with some minus single digits.
Yes, exactly.
I'm going to embrace it.
Yes, do enjoy it.
In fact, it's my last full weekend in Manitoba. Yeah. So nice send off there.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much, Riley.
Have a great weekend.
You too. That's Riley Lachuk. He's our CBC Manitoba weather specialist, and he'll be back during Up to Speed, which is on this very same airwaves from 3 to 6. And you can also check him out later on TV on the CBC Winnipeg News at 6. Well, it's now 12:37. You're listening to Radio Noon on CBC Radio 1, and it's officially festive movie season, ringing in a new batch of holiday movies in theaters, on TV, and on streaming services. Many folks are already tucking in and watching some holiday classics, perhaps an old favorite that you watch every year or a show that reminds you of holidays past. Today on our call-in conversation, we want to hear which holiday movies or shows you love to watch every year, or which new offerings you're excited to check out and why. Give us a call, 204-780-0893. That's 780-0893. You can also text us if that's better. Maybe you're at work, but you could slip off a little text to us. The number is 204-588-7355, 588-7355. Di Golding is joining us over Zoom. She's a film and TV critic and a member of the Critics' Choice Association. And for her, there's no question which Christmas flick she'll be watching.
Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells.
Oh, another classic, and it's got to be the Muppet Christmas Carol for Di Golding, who joins us now. Hi, Di.
Hi, Emily. How are you?
Great. It's just cheering me up hearing all these wonderful Christmas show musics and movie themes. It's great.
It's very nostalgic.
Yes. Yeah, very nostalgic. Like, especially hearing the Muppets, what does that bring up back to you?
Well, I love Muppets more than most people. I think for me it goes dogs, Muppets, humans. That's how I roll. Because Muppets are special. I can't imagine a world without them. And when you think about how they came up, they shouldn't even really exist. There's a lot of 60s, 70s energy there that just also is part of the nostalgia. But one of the reasons I love the Christmas Carol, the Muppet version, is because it stars Michael Caine and he plays it completely straight. Like he's playing opposite Dame Judi Dench or Maggie Smith. He plays it like he's not playing to Muppets, like he doesn't realize he's in a Muppet movie, which is what I love about it. And I also think that Muppets should be in more movies, just as regular Muppets. Like, let's just try and do that. But I think the thing, part of it, and I don't want to make you emotional because I know you're already getting there, but it was that one was the first Muppet movie made post Jim Henson. And it was the first Muppet movie made after Walt Disney had purchased or had taken on the Muppets. And so it's a little bittersweet. But I do believe as their first post Jim Henson creation was fantastic. It's over 30 years old now. It still holds up. And I think it's also a much easier way to introduce kids to the story because it is a little bit, there's ghosts, it's a little bit scary. And I love it. But unfortunately, I was introduced to the original Alistair Sim version of Scrooge, which was terrifying as a child. And I think I need to blame CBC for that because they used to show it on Christmas Eve. And that would be right before bed. It was like, well, I guess I better be good or I'm going to be visited tonight. So I do think the Muppet Christmas Special is a good one to introduce kids to that story without it being too heavy and too black and white and a little bit too mature. But if I had to choose even more than Muppets, it would be the Charlie Brown Christmas Special.
Me too. It's got the amazing music.
And I mean,
timeless.
That's central to it. Absolutely. And that's what's central to it. And a lot of people don't know, maybe some do by now, that the special almost never made it to air. It was commissioned by Coca-Cola Company. And at that point, in around 1964, 1965, the Peanuts characters by Charles Schultz had become incredibly popular. And Coca-Cola commissioned a documentary, which eventually became the Charlie Brown Christmas Special. They didn't like it. The CBS was going to air it. They didn't like it either because it had jazz music, which was a no-no. The animation was very simple. I mean, we all know the Peanuts now. But at the time in the 60s animation, they wanted to have a little bit more Rocket Robin Hood. They wanted movement and they wanted excitement. And you couldn't get that from the Charlie Brown Christmas special. They also didn't use a laugh track, which was a big no-no in animated films at the time. But mainly, they did not like Linus's speech in the film because they did not want to have Christianity or any overt religious overtones represented. But I think that's the part that just kind of gets everybody. It's Linus talking, it's the music, it's the spirit of the whole thing. So thanks to Coca-Cola, they said, we've already paid for the broadcasting spot. We don't like it, but we better show it anyway. We've already spent the money. They put it on and the rest is history. But did you know who saw it before CBS? It was aired at Winnipeg CJ TV station.
Wow.
Aired it four days. They got it 4 days before CBS and the National American airing. So I guess they love y'all up there. They wanted to test it on everyone. And they showed it at 4 p.m. in Winnipeg. And then 4 days later, they showed it across North America, and we all got to see what Winnipeg saw first.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, Winnipeg is often known as a test audience because we've got such a diverse range of people here. That's so exciting.
That's right.
Well,
so thank you, Coca-Cola and Winnipeg.
And Winnipeg, of course. Give us a call. Let us know what your favorite must-watch holiday film is. The number is 204-780-0893 or text 204-588-7355. And we've got Rockin' Al from Winnipeg on the line. He says Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy is his must-watch. Al, tell us more.
No, absolutely. I usually am a caller. I usually win the mashup on the weekend.
Good.
So I almost feel like I'm cheating on him right now, but no, I love that show too. But aside from the usual, like I know everyone loves, and I do too, It's a Wonderful Life, Miracle on 34th Street. Of course, you start watching those, you have to keep watching. But I feel the same about Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy and their Trading Places. It is just the most beautiful, hilarious, heartfelt movie. And politically speaking, it's more relevant today than it is even when it came out, because it deals with the greed of the Wall Street and the corporate, world. And they tie it in with Christmas, and they tie it in with like a little bit of a betrayal, a little bit of a turnaround. I don't know if you know the plot of it or not.
I don't think I've seen it, but yeah, this is interesting.
What they do is Eddie Murphy is he's like a street crazy person, and he's a bit of a misfit. And Dan Aykroyd's a Wall Street, bigwig. And these two owners of this large corporation, they make a bet that they're arguing, is it nature versus nurture that turns a person into a good or a bad person, right? So they're so evil, they're cheaters and they're multi-billionaires, and they make a bet for $1, and they ruin Dan Aykroyd's life. He's the fat cat, well-educated Wall Street guy, and they end up framing him and making him look like a criminal, and he loses his job, he loses his social standing. And then they take Eddie Murphy off the street and they train him to be like a Wall Street stock trader. And it's just, I don't want to spoil anything more, but like it's so worth watching. It's so enjoyable, and I just recommend anybody who hasn't seen it or, to watch it. I know those who've seen it, I guarantee you they watch it like I do.
And what does it make you feel when you watch it? Even though you've seen it, you keep watching it every year.
I have to watch it. Well, first of all, I mean, you're talking two of the greatest comedy legends of our era, Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. They're the Mount Rushmore, right? So their performances, but really, again, it's that, it's that whole message of that the greedy people and how thoughtless they are towards ruining people's lives. They don't care. They only care about money. And without spoiling, the end of it is they turn the tables on these rich guys. I won't say any more because I'll spoil the movie.
Yeah, I have to watch it, Al, so don't tell too much.
No, it ties it all in. And again, you're looking at amazing performances. And I can't remember the female lead. She was
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes.
Oh, that
there
can't
you go.
get better.
And there's
I was
another
going to
one.
mention her because she's fantastic in that too.
Well,
No.
Al, thank you so much for calling. Di, we were talking about that theme in the Christmas Carol as well as this, that greed and realizing, the spirit of giving. Like, why do you think that's such a universal theme that endures?
And the anti-capitalism, and it was the same in the Charlie Brown that we were talking about. I think because throughout the season, we sometimes need a reminder of why we're running around and why we're rushing from one store to the next, or putting the decorations up. And it's very easy to get exhausted and to get cynical about it. But then you watch these movies, and it reminds you the true importance of Christmas. One thing I wanted to mention about the Charlie Brown Christmas special is the music from it. There was a gentleman named Jerry Granelli. He was the drummer on the original Vince Guaraldi soundtrack. He eventually became a Canadian citizen. He moved to Halifax, and he gave a series in the 2000s, 2013, he started doing these tours with the Charlie Brown Christmas music. And he mentioned throughout the tour, when he would talk and he would play the music on the drums with a trio, he talked about how the original recording was everyone, he and the trio, they just got paid flat rate. And he said he made about $50 on the Charlie Brown Christmas special.
Oh my gosh.
In 1965 at the time. And for years he hated it. Every Christmas he would turn it off. Anytime he heard the song on the radio, he would leave the room. He could not stand the music because he had such anti-capitalist thoughts.
Right. It brings it back to that theme again.
Yeah. And so he decided, I know what I'm going to do. And so, I mean, it started out for him as a way to, kind of present this music to people and also to make some money back on the, this song is now it's in the Smithsonian. This song is the music has become so iconic. And so this was his way to do that. But one of the things that I don't think he realized would happen is how much he loved it. And he toured all over Canada for many, many years. I got to see him do it twice. Absolutely incredible. Packed house both times I saw him, because he tells these stories. They would show clips of the movie. I highly recommend, if you get a chance, to just Google the story of Jerry Granelli and the story of Charlie Brown, because I'm only giving the broad strokes of it, and it really deserves a little bit more. And he did it right up until he passed away in 2021. And he would bring in children's choir. They'd have children come in and sing the songs and play Linus and do all of that stuff. And he really found it a tonic near the end of his life to be able to go out and perform these songs. So it wasn't about the money anymore.
I'm so
it was
glad.
about the feeling.
Yeah, so
and
glad.
Having been in the
that it came full circle.
Audience.
Yeah, no, that's
Absolutely.
great. In fact, the Winnipeg Jazz Orchestra just performed it a couple years ago, and that was just such a special moment. It sold out very quickly.
Incredible.
We do have a text, Di. Shirley in St. Boniface says, I have a pile I always watch, original Grinch, Rudolph, etc. But the new ones we found that we love are Last Holiday with Queen Latifah living her best life after doubting herself, and The Holiday with Cameron Diaz and Kate Winslet finding themselves. These are our cozy Christmas movies. How about you, Di? Like, have you heard those being favorites and that theme of,
absolutely.
Women coming into their best life?
Absolutely. And also there's the annual Love Actually debate. Do you love it? Do you hate it? And all that it ends up doing is people just watch it anyway. You watch it whether you love or you hate it. I think the most kind of one that gets me in the feels is probably It's a Wonderful Life. And then, of course, there's a Muppets version of It's a Wonderful Life. So you get the duo.
Give us a call if you want to share your favorite holiday movies, the ones you got to watch every year or the shows you got to check out. The number is 204-780-0893. And you can also text us at 204-58 87355. Di, are there also some hidden gems that we might not be aware of?
Absolutely. One of my favorites is About a Boy. And it was based on a novel by Nick Hornby. And it was starring Hugh Grant, Nicholas Hoult, and Toni Collette and Rachel Weisz. And it's set in England. Hugh Grant is basically playing a version of himself. He's a wealthy man. He doesn't have to work, and he enjoys dating single moms because then he doesn't have to work as hard. They're just grateful. But then he ends up becoming involved in a single parent family home, and everything kind of, again, he becomes, his heart grows 3 sizes too big. That's one of my favorites. And also I was reminded of it because Toni Collette and Nicholas Hoult, who played mother and son, were just in a movie together called Jury Number 2. And they discussed in an interview how young Nicholas Hoult had been in that film. That's a great one. Another one I really like that's just goofy, it is called Just Friends, with Canada's own Ryan Reynolds. And Amy Smart, and they play high school friends, and he went away and changed his whole life and comes back and decides he wants to woo her. And it's very slapsticky. It's very Looney Tunes-esque. It's very Ryan Reynolds, down in the dirt. And, he's not exactly the leading man we've grown to see. So that's another one of my favorite ones too. Also, it's very Canadian. I'm pretty sure that one was filmed in Canada, as are most.
Wow. Yeah, that's great.
Christmas films.
We do have another person calling in. Dylan is just getting their name right now. We'll go to line 1 in just a second here. Hello. Yeah, tell us. I understand that you've got a favorite. Tell us, Neil, what's your favorite?
Well, it's not exactly a favorite, Emily. It's more like a film we've come to cherish at this time of year.
Okay.
And it's called Blizzard. And I'm wondering if your guest there would know it. Probably does.
I do.
But basically, it's a Canadian film. Well, it was shot in Canada. LeVar Burton of Star Trek The Next Generation was the director.
Oh, wow.
And it starred the late Christopher Plummer as Santa Claus.
Oh, my goodness. Well, what a classic for Canada there.
Yeah.
And what do you love about it, Neil?
It's a heartwarming story. The plot is a bit disjointed at parts. There are some recognizable elements. For instance, there's a part where you see the Santa Claus village, and it's actually the Chateau Laurier in the back of because it was shot in Quebec City.
Wow. Gorgeous. Yeah. Well, that sounds great. Di, said...
Can I say one other thing?
Absolutely.
Emily, all the best in New Brunswick.
Oh, Neil, thank you so much. Oh, that touches me very much. I appreciate that.
I know you're going to do a great job there, and we'll be listening for you on the app.
Well, please do. And send a note sometime. Please do. Thank you so much, Neil. And yeah, Di, what do you think about Neil's pick there, Blizzard?
I do know Blizzard, and I worked at an independent video store for about 15 years. And around this time would be when we would have to order extra copies of certain Christmas movies because they were just too favorite. That was one of them. Kids love that movie. And then this was the time of year where we would argue between the staff whether or not Die Hard goes into the Christmas section.
The eternal debate.
It's an argument as old as video stores. So yeah, I do think it's a Christmas movie. I think anything where you got a Christmas party going on in the background, ipso facto, you're a Christmas movie. Sorry, haters.
I believe
that's just where I fall with that.
I agree. Neil, thank you so much for that call. We have another caller now on line 3. This is actually, we'll go to the text first. Julia wrote in. She says that her family watches Christmas Vacation every year. They quote the hilarious lines all year long and say it's just so relatable because we're all kind of trying to make this perfect Christmas happen, and it's so hard for so many families. That's definitely one of my favorites too, Di. The comedies, sometimes it's good to lighten it up, isn't it?
Absolutely. I did get thrown out of my hometown theater for laughing too hard at a Christmas Vacation. This would have been when I was in high school. And I remember I guess that's a good sign. If you're laughing so hard at a movie that you're being told to shush, then that movie's pretty funny. That's absolutely a classic in my... I love all the vacation movies. I also love, in terms of ridiculous, over the top, is The Ref, which is a movie with Dennis Leary, and it's about, he plays a thief who's robbing houses on Christmas Eve and then has to take a family hostage.
Oh.
And that one is pretty dark and it's pretty out there. Christine Baranski is in it. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, but yeah, no, I do love the funny over the top ones. And the Clark Griswold Christmas, of course, gave us the iconic cousin Eddie emptying out the sewage system of his RV in the front yard of the Griswold house is still a classic.
Yeah. And we actually got a call, but then she didn't want to come on the air, but she did. Anna said that she wanted to mention A Christmas Story from 1983.
Oh,
She says it's such a charming
yes.
movie. Tell us a little bit about that one, Di.
Well, that was actually a Canadian film. It was made in Canada. Some of it was filmed in the States, but it was Gene Shepherd, who was a famous radio and storyteller. And it's his voice narrating the story of a young family or a young boy in 1930s, 40s in the States. I believe it's supposed to be Chicago. And he wants, more than anything, a Red Ryder BB gun for Christmas. And everyone keeps telling him he's going to shoot his eye out. But he persists nonetheless. But it's a story about his family, what their typical Christmas was like, their neighborhood, their friends.
Sounds like such a good one. Di, we're going to have to leave it there. We're running out of time, and I'm so glad so many people called in to weigh in and that you were able to join us.
To you.
Well, thank you so much.
Emily.
Merci beaucoup.
I hope the best.
Thank you,
You're gonna
Di.
have to brush up on some French.
Yes,
My
yes.
pleasure.
Well, hopefully we get to talk out there too. That was Di Golding, a film and TV critic. She's a member of the Critics' Choice Association. Thank you to everyone who called in. Have a fantastic weekend. Maybe check out some of these great selections we heard about today on Radio Noon. Take care.